Welcome to Culture on Tap. We're a podcast that is about bridging the cultural gap, one conversation at a time. First episode, getting it started. We have myself, Xavier Bright. We have Dale Young, who is sitting right next to me. We're the ones that get to show off our moneymaker.
That's right.
We need to figure out something else because we ain't making a lot of money from our moneymakers.
That's true.
But we also have our good friend who is behind the camera, who you may hear his voice every now and then, Range Armentar. But we as friends...
I want to point out, though, when you hear Armentar, it's not spelled the way you think. But just go ahead.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But we as friends are always having a conversation about things going on within the culture from different vantage points. But we also do it through a biblical lens. So we're just inviting you guys to tap in.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah. Into the culture.
And tap into those conversations. It's literally whatever is going on, church related, politics, pop culture, Disney, whatever we have that's going on.
I feel like we sound weird already because it's like church, politics, culture, Disney, like.
Yeah.
But that's who we are.
These are the conversations that we have. So please like, subscribe, and share on anywhere where you listen to podcasts or watch podcasts, and make sure to hit the like and I already just said that.
The notification.
The notification, the bell.
Hit the bell.
So that whenever we have new content coming out,
yes,
you can be a part of what's going on. So I guess we can just start out with, what do you think people's going to get from this podcast?
Well, my hope is, and we'll probably get more into this. Xavier and myself work together on two platforms. We're co-pastors of a church plant, and then we work at a boys' home as well. On top of doing life together. Range does not work at either one. He's in the process of becoming an elder at our church, and he's also one of our best friends. But my hope in this is just that, we can be honest with who we are and open the door for people to be honest with what they think. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you want someone. I feel like we have really good conversations without having to follow the guidelines of what everybody thinks we should do.
Yeah.
I don't know if people like that or don't like that.
Well, it's difficult to have tough conversation, to even disagree sometimes, and yet still love one another well, pursue each other as friends. And not just us, but, again, our wives, Range, Eric, who is a close friend who lives in Colorado. It's just we have hard conversations, and sometimes we disagree. Sometimes we get upset. But the reality is that we come together and we love one another, and we can disagree and yet still be friends, and still love each other and love each other's families and all the things. So, but I think the beauty is that we're so different. We look different, clearly.
What? That is true.
The way we act, our upbringing, it's just unlikely friendship on all fronts.
But wouldn't you agree, though, and we'll probably get into this more in future episodes when all of you like and subscribe and join us, throwing that little subtle hint in there.
Yeah.
But
hit the bell.
It's because we passionately believe in community.
Yes.
Because without that, I don't think any of us would be friends.
Right.
Because we had to, and we're going to talk about this in just a second, but we had to get past the stereotypical surface to realize, we need each other in our lives.
Yeah.
Because I would say, if you're looking at us and you've never saw us before, you can clearly go, they're not the same. But I would even argue, if it was Range, who is also a white man, was sitting up here next to me, he is very different about most things in life. Me and him are not the same outside of color.
Iowa, Louisiana.
Iowa, Louisiana.
Where that's at?
Just pronounce the city wrong and go with it. That's what we do.
And the last name.
Yeah. You're going to learn that it's just a miracle that Range lives.
For sure. So I guess you can start out with your background, where you're from.
Yeah. So
all the things.
we are right now. We all live in Houston, Texas, or the suburbs of Houston, Texas, and I grew up in Mississippi. I was born and raised there. Why you got? You already doing this?
I was just agreeing with you. You from Mississippi?
Yeah, you agree.
The goat.
So very different from. I would say not very different from Range, but extremely different from Xavier. Yes, extremely different. And it's different. I want to be clear. I am not trying to paint a picture of this horrible place. You've been there once, twice now. Well, drove through it once.
Drove through it
stayed
multiple times, but stayed once
with me.
Yeah.
It was something different.
It was an experience.
But it is different. I mean, we joke about it. Do I think that Mississippi is making strides forward when it comes to racism? Yes. Does that mean that they're still at the back of the race? They're not winning medals. I can say it like that. But it's a different culture. I grew up where we had two homecoming queens. We had a white homecoming queen, and we had a minority homecoming queen, which we knew meant a black homecoming queen. I grew up where there were pools that literally had signs on the outside. I'm quoting the sign, "No colors allowed." I was telling you about this recently. I remember in 2000 playing baseball and in Columbus, Mississippi. You can actually look this up. There was a young man by the name of Raynard Johnson who had been hung to death. I don't know if you get hung to life, but he was hung. Yeah, hung. And they decided that it was a suicide, and there's just a lot of evidence that doesn't add up. And I remember being on the ball field, and 5 or 6 buses came in, and it was Jesse Jackson, Louis Farrakhan, Emmett Till's mom, and just people protesting what happened to this young man. Because the issue was he was dating a white girl, and as of right now, it's still labeled as a suicide, even though the evidence doesn't end up that way. I'm not here to debate that, but I just remember as a kid, not that death isn't out of the ordinary, but I remember thinking the way I was brought up, he knows better, and that's just the way it was. And I would not say that I grew up in a blatant racist family. My parents would never allow us to use derogatory terms towards anyone, but I think that there was some ignorance in just not knowing any better, even for me. And I mean, we'll talk more about that as we grew in our friendship, things that you're like, hey bro, like, and I just didn't know, like, just had no idea. So yeah, that's kind of that. We grew up, as far as my childhood, we're the buckle of the Bible Belt. So, everybody's a Christian, it seems like, or says they're a Christian. Grew up in a Southern Baptist home. My dad was a pastor, and we were, in my opinion, your typical American Christian family, what everybody thought Christian families should look like. Don't know that I'm a fan of that, but hey, it is what it is. Yeah,
for sure. So, in a stark contrast to your upbringing.
Extreme stark.
Yeah. I grew up on the southeast side of Houston, but my family were from the islands. My mom is from St. Croix, and my dad is from Antigua, which are both U.S. Virgin Islands. And we grew up very close-knit family, big family. I mean, I remember as a kid, every Friday and Saturday, we were at one of my uncle's homes, listening to music, dancing, just having a nice time, partying. Not how you would think of partying. It was just family, playing dominoes, whatever the case may be. And we have a big family because on one side, my dad has 15 plus brothers and sisters, and my mom has, I think, 12 or 13 plus brothers and sisters. So just a big family. A lot of them were in the Houston area, so always having parties, always just hanging out, having a good time. We also grew up in church from the time that I could remember. We were going to a church called Abundant Life Church, and I was like maybe 3 or 4. And it was a big church, a lot of people that went, very charismatic, people falling out and all the things that you get from a charismatic church. But it seemed as though that it was for the most part, a nice community because it was a lot of my family members, but you had other people who were huge impacts on my life as far as my spiritual formation, whether it was my Sunday school teacher, Sister Dolly, or one of my youth teachers, and we'll get into my thing with youth pastors a little later. But one of them, Brother Jim Baker, who were very instrumental in my upbringing as far as church and what it looked like for me. But I would say that there were some deaths in the family that happened whenever I was younger that kind of like seemed as though my family kind of just split apart. And it wasn't every Friday night or Saturday night where we were getting together, but people moved away. And so it just kind of just became my nuclear family, my mom, my dad, and my 2 older brothers, 2 younger sisters, and maybe like some cousins that were still around, and a couple of my aunts and uncles. But very, very close knit, little town, southeast side of Houston. And then, like from that, spawned relationships with my now wife, who we went to school together, been together since junior high, and a lot of drama before Jesus, how I treated her, how she treated me, but we'll get into that different episode. Want to really focus on our relationship and where it stemmed from.
But I would even say in what you're saying, like, yes, there's cultural differences, but even in the way we were raised in church, where you said people getting slain in spirit, and just like, I'd never saw that until I was 19 years old.
Wow.
And like, I grew up in a church where we sang from the highway hymnal, and then the church had to vote to go from the highway hymnal to the 1984 version of the Baptist hymnal. And we sang first, second, and fourth stanzas. I still, to the life of me, don't know why we don't sing the third stanza, but that's what we did. And the most interaction you got from where I grew up was amen. Like, there was no raising of hands.
Oh no, we was dancing.
Oh no, you do not dance in the church. In fact, we built a fellowship hall it wasn't connected wall to wall. There was just a breezeway. Range is nodding. He knows. He from that neck of the woods too. You have a breezeway. You have a breezeway that can connect the two, but you can't connect the walls because there can't be dancing in the church. So you could dance technically in the fellowship hall, which, even though I don't really know that we did any dancing in the fellowship hall, but never once. Never, like, don't get it confused.
No, we had Sister Gibbs, who she would literally dance through worship. Like, and now, like, thinking about it, back then, me and my brothers and cousins would laugh, but now thinking about it, like, how she didn't care.
Yeah,
she would just dance.
Did y'all have special music?
What do you mean special music?
So Like
No,
a book of,
I don't know what that is.
so
Especially worship music.
no,
All
no.
of it
Well,
was
I mean,
special.
I guess it could be worship. I mean, you didn't get to sing along.
Hmm.
So we, I know it sounds really. So we would have like our hymns that we would do, but then when it was time for the offering, one person in the church who either could sing or thought they could sing,
Mm.
and you just were too, you didn't want to hurt their feelings, would come up.
We had a couple of those, but
And
I won't
just,
say names.
yeah, and they would sing a solo, like it was almost like a concert. Like they would sing a song during the offering, and before the preacher would come up and preach every Sunday. We had special music every Sunday.
We didn't have that.
Well,
Can't say we did.
I'm not gonna say you missed out on much, but
Well, it sounds like I did. I would like maybe we should incorporate that.
I remember though.
Special song.
You said I remember the first time I saw someone just fall out in church and they covered him up with a sheet, and I am terrified.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea what we were doing. I was like, are they dead? Are they asleep?
It was pretty much every Sunday that was happening until I was like 8 or 9. So like early on, it was that. There was one time somebody hit their head on the side of the pew, and I really think he was gone. But like it changed after a new pastor came in. He was still pretty charismatic, but that wasn't happening.
How long
all
were
the
services?
time. So it's funny. As I got older, they got shorter. So it went from like, I remember 10 till like 12:30, 1
Oh,
o'clock.
child, please.
But as I got older, it was like 10 to 11. But then you had to come back at 5 o'clock
Oh yeah,
for
yeah.
Sunday evening prayer.
Ours was discipleship training.
Yeah.
But we were just studying Baptist stuff. But yeah, ours was 45 minutes to an hour. max.
Yeah.
Don't get twisted. Unless it was Christmas cantata, that could be an hour and a half.
That's the only time. What about Easter?
Oh well, no, because we had sunrise service.
Oh, okay.
You had
Okay.
sunrise and then you had regular service.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, where our paths kind of cross, long story short, I felt called to ministry. I was running from it for years. Well, I say years, it was like 2.5, 3 years. Got connected. One of my friends went to a church that most of Youth Reach at the time was going to. And he was the discipleship pastor, I believe. He was some sort of pastor on staff. And he told Lauren about Youth Reach. Lauren is my wife. And then, again, long story short, got connected with Youth Reach, got hired on. And then I was the education coordinator. So I was in the classroom with the boys. It's a boys' home. Youth Reach Houston is a boys' home for at-risk youth between the ages of 12 to 17. And they go to school. They do everything on campus. We're on 26 acres, east side of Houston. So I was in the classroom with the boys, helping them with like basically a homeschool curriculum hybrid with credit recovery type of thing. And we had a tutor who came in.
It was not me, just so we're clear.
No, it was Dale's dad who was the tutor. But it was funny because the boys was teaching him things. He was like, I think they changed math on me. I remember he told me that. So I was dying whenever he told me. He was like, I don't know what this is. I'll come and do what I can, but I think they changed math on me. So, but he told me, he was like, hey, I have a son who he's a youth pastor at Atascocita Community Church. You should meet him. You should come out, blah, 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 this and that. And I was like, nah, I'm cool. I don't really like youth pastors. I had a thing.
You had a thing.
I had a thing with youth pastors. So from the time I was 12 to 18, I think I went through 6 youth pastors.
Yeah.
And all of them said the same thing. They were going to be there for the long haul. We were going to learn about Jesus. We're going to do all of these things. One of them didn't say that. One of them just said we was going to have fun. And we played
Well, at least it was honest.
Yeah.
It
We played foosball and ping pong.
A lot.
Wednesday nights, Sunday nights. Like we just had fun. Never opened the Bible. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't remember.
You don't remember
opening a Bible ever with him.
But I also think it's safe to say when we met, I mean, we have on here to talk about adulthood, but I think we're going to do that through our episodes of how we've changed and kind of go back and forth of what we were taught and what we believe. But just on the surface level, if we're in a room of 100 people, just so people understand who we are, what is your initial thing to go do?
Sit in the corner.
And I'm gonna meet every one of them. Like every single one of them.
Yeah.
Like got to. And if no one spoke to you all night,
I think I'm ecstatic.
Because you even there'll be times that we hang out.
I'm just chilling.
You just chill. Like you'll sit over on the couch.
Nothing's wrong. I'm just quiet.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Sometimes where everybody's in the kitchen or at the dining table and I'm on the couch just chilling. I'm looking, but I'm good.
I think that's important because I think it plays into when we met each other. Not that I don't think that you weren't a jerk to me.
There you go. Go ahead. Just go ahead and give your spiel.
But I think your
dramatic
personality also played into it.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to give you.
Absolutely.
I'm giving you a benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely. But go ahead and
in your eyes that you gave.
Oh, I was judging.
Oh,
I was judging as soon as your dad said that you were a youth pastor. I'm like, all youth pastors are the same. They don't really teach scripture. I was very arrogant because I thought that the way that I came up and was discipled was the only way.
Well, and I to be fair, I would say not only is that true for most, I think that's the standard they want for most. I mean, I think people want them to play games and stuff like that.
For sure.
But so where I think we, because I was out there, maybe 2-3 weeks before you started working there, volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
And so how I got involved was, like I said, I was a youth pastor at Emmett, at Atascocita Community Church. And I met Kurt. Our senior pastor had just resigned, and Kurt had come in to help us walk through the process of hiring a new senior pastor. And he had brought me.
Kurt is the executive director.
He started Youth Reach, and he brought me out to see it, tour it, and then shortly after that, I started volunteering. And I think I only volunteered 2 weeks, and then we met.
Mm-hmm.
I'd brought my youth out to do. I don't really remember that. You're not lying. I'm sure you're telling the truth. But undoubtedly, we met, and I came over and spoke to you, and I'm sure you were.
I was bubbly, clearly, because you remember.
I do remember our second conversation.
We were building a fence. Our back fence at Youth Reach had fallen apart. So we had a whole bunch of different groups. We had, I want to say 4 or 5 different groups from different churches come out to build this long fence. And I met Dale. I just kind of introduced myself. Well, he introduced himself to me, and I shook his hand and I said my name, and then that was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Then he was pitching with different youth and hurt his arm. But
I did. But then we had the second interaction. Yes. So he took the boys to the Holocaust Museum. If you live in Houston, or if you're through Houston, it's a phenomenal museum. I encourage you to go to. Y'all came back. This is when I realized I don't think this guy likes me. Because you got out of the van. We were standing there at stage 1 home, and you got out, and I said hello, shook your hand again. And I could tell by the way you responded. I was like, I don't think this guy's a fan.
Yeah. I wasn't.
I did tell you that he had a jacket on that looked like a stained glass window. Mm-hmm. I told him I liked it, but
coat of many colors.
I don't like his jacket. It's I'm thankful he doesn't wear it as much anymore.
Yeah,
But I lied. I said I did. And at that time, he had from Kid and Play
yeah.
flat top.
Flat top.
Had a big old flat top.
Looked like I was vomited out of the 90s.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like I was like, this cat is all about some 90s.
Absolutely.
And but yeah, that was when I realized, like, I don't know that we're gonna be friends. Like, I don't think that that's gonna be in the cards for us. Didn't really know why. But we were both kind of new out there.
Yeah, for sure. And then we took our Youth Reach boys to a youth service, I think in the coming weeks. And I heard Dale speak, and I was like, oh, okay. Like, he's real. From his message, it was like, he's real. He's raw. He clearly loves Jesus because he got emotional. Like, it was a very fresh experience that I'd never had before from a youth pastor. It was like, I don't know if this is a thing, but it feels like often youth pastors just have a facade.
Yeah.
And they're trying to fit in, be cool with the kids. That's not what I got from you. So I was like, oh, okay. I like this message. It was convicting. He wasn't just kind of, tiptoeing around the scripture. He was being real, he was being raw, and he was being challenging. So I'm like, okay, I can get down with that. And then he had come over that night to Youth Reach, and he was sitting on the fireplace, and I chose that to
just grill me. Which I mean, at the time I was kind of like, whoa, but at the same time I appreciated it because I feel like, and I even think about it now, I feel like there's probably less than 10 people in my life in 20-something years of ministry that have asked me that many questions. Like, genuine. I mean, I think you start out with, where do you land on games? And I mean, which, as you saw, I didn't play a lot of games, just so I don't, that was not who I was. Like, if they want to play games, play them somewhere else. I'm here to share the word. But I mean, we talked about theology. Like, I can't think of what we didn't cover that evening. Because it was an easy 2-hour conversation.
Yeah. And I actually think you were supposed to be at stage 2, but we stayed.
The boys were not happy.
Past bedtime because we were just sitting there talking. I was asking a lot of questions because I just wanted to get more of a perspective on who you were. Because, again, I had this thing with youth pastors, which is not okay, but that was just from my personal experience.
Yeah, no, I mean, once I understood where you were coming from, I got it because I know how it was when I first went into ministry, and even going to youth pastor conferences, going to talk to other youth pastors, and like, I'd be like, oh, I'm not like y'all. One of us is not like the other, which I get that quite often in my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely something, but I think I think you would agree, that's where, not that we left that conversation going, we're friends. I think it was like, okay, we at least align with what we think these boys need.
Right.
And that's where it all stemmed from, your prayer, and eventually leaving Acts and coming to ACC and being my right hand, leaving there, doing student ministry, going back to Youth Reach, and then now us co-pastoring a church together, and both working at Youth Reach. Yeah.
It stemmed from that conversation.
Yeah, but I think, would you agree, if we both didn't have a desire to find community, it'd been easy for us just to kind of let it land in this.
Oh, for sure.
Because regardless, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of this that we talk about in even future episodes, the race thing.
Yeah.
It was still a thing.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, because I mean, I thought I'm a guy that clearly don't have race issues.
Yeah.
And I clearly did. Not
clearly, but
not how that sounds.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Just didn't understand fully, and I think that's where where God aligned us, because when we started hanging out, your wife was pregnant with y'all's number 2, and then walking with you and not really like hearing you then going like, oh yeah, I get what you're saying. And just so y'all know, I have a wife and 3 children. Our youngest is adopted. She's a black little girl. And I think that's when, things really changed for me.
Yeah.
I started seeing things that I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
And I think you helped me kind of figure out this is probably more of a reality than you realize.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that really, I think, took our relationship to a different level.
Yeah.
Not that we weren't already close, but
yeah, it was definitely God's providence.
yeah.
The timing of everything, y'all adopting Ryan when y'all did, us building a friendship, months before that, hanging out, spending a lot of time together, spending a lot of time with the Armentars and the Hudsons before they went to Colorado, which sucked because we're getting to know them. And, oh, yeah, by the way, we're leaving.
But I think that when we say friends, like, I think you would agree this season is probably, now me and you see each other a ton because we work together in 2 aspects. But as far as just getting to hang out, we probably hang out less now than we ever have.
Absolutely.
Just because of busyness of our kids are getting older. They play sports. They got school things going on. They have homework, whatever.
Yeah.
I would say before that, it was a minimum of twice a week we were together. We always.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah, and that's just not even talking about Bible study. Just to hang out.
Yeah, yeah.
We vacation together. All of us vacation together. In fact, we have a trip coming up in November with 28 of us.
Yeah.
Which is
crazy.
Not smart, but it's going to be fun.
We gonna ride it out. we gonna rock it out. Yeah.
So if you're planning on being in the Houston airport on November 19th, steer clear because we coming
deep
with a lot of kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just to give y'all some insight on Range too, behind the camera. I remember I met Range, or I remember meeting Range at Fall Retreat 2015. So October 2015, we went away to the cabin. Mm-hmm. I met him, shook his hand. That was it. Range. I had no idea what he said. I was going to say it starts with an R, so I'm going to go with Ronald or Reagan or, something like that. I had no idea what he said, but I thought he was 87 years old. Then like a week or two later, you from the platform said, hey, everybody, it's Range's birthday. He's like 34. So I said, there ain't no way. He's at least 66. There ain't no way. This man had never seen Wizard of Oz. He didn't know who Luke Skywalker was. Like, he was literally real life form of Patrick living under the rock.
Oh,
in SpongeBob.
I still remember when we went to Disney that time with them, and Chewbacca walks up behind him, and he's like, "Who's the hairy dude?" And I'm like, you don't even have to watch the movie to understand
who. Yep.
Yeah,
yeah. So peering into our friendship, we are very, very different, but it's beautiful that the Lord, through His gospel, through our different relationships, and I always say it, the culture of the cross crosses cultures. And so us being saved and having that in common bridged the gap for us culturally, even 100%. Though we are completely different.
And because we didn't even say, like with Eric, I mean, he's a former police officer that walked away from it and became a worship pastor at our church.
Yeah.
Literally months before our pastor is no longer there. I remember early on having to tell him more than once, don't police talk me. Like he'd put the police fingers out and like start directing me. I'm like, do not talk to me that way. But just, and then we walked with them through the first adoption. And let's just be really clear. They are the reason we love Disney.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason we get to go.
Absolutely.
So, but they, we all come from different, because our age spans, because, Eric's 50 this year. And are you the youngest, or is Lauren the youngest?
Lauren.
And she is
31.
31. So we're talking almost 20 years difference in age across the board.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And of course, we got all of our wives that are Also extremely different
Mhm.
across the board.
Mhm.
And it's very interesting. Just we're a very eclectic group that had to work to love each other. Like
Yeah.
it's easy now,
Yeah.
but no one would have said it would have worked. I don't think anybody would have said it would have worked.
I would have said it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, I can see that.
Just being honest, but that's the beauty of the gospel. Like, um, my heart in friendship is to be one who sees the best in people, and stays near through the worst. Like, I want to rejoice and weep. And I think we model that,
Yeah.
not perfectly, but healthily.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that whether it's little, where I recently Jess, she has an embroidery shop, and
This
she
ranges.
wife,
Wife.
Miss Range's wife, and she made it a really tough thing, and she put it out there, and we were excited for her to, someone's family walking through death or whatever. I think that we want to know, we want to be a part of that as much as we can.
Yeah.
And I would say that's the hope of this podcast, is that
Yeah.
it's not. I don't want it to be where we're these two robots up here going, well, this is what Jesus said to do.
Right.
Like, I want it to be who we are and what we believe. And if we get on a tangent because I missaid a word, or you don't understand me with my Mississippi slang, that we can laugh about it.
Which is going to happen often.
Yes, it will. And it's just because we didn't really tackle our adulthood, but I think one thing I think we could all agree on is we all were determined not to be who everyone said we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the friendships all kind of started. Some of us started earlier than others.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, I'm older, so by a few years.
You.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
No, but I think that's what people are going to get from this podcast. Like, it's going to be unique because of the different vantage points that we have. But the reality is that, like, they're going to see something and hear something that is far different from what we're getting from the culture right now.
Absolutely.
Even in disagreements.
I agree.
That's just the reality of it. So I would say stay tuned.
Yep.
Again, this was just the first episode, just to kind of give everybody background of our friendship.
Like that they're gonna possibly get better.
Yeah, yeah, they may get. This is new for us.
Do our sponsorship too.
This is new for us. Talking in a mic.
Yeah.
I mean, we these are conversations that we have often, but it's just different with cameras and a mic. So we may struggle through the first few episodes.
This has been a while coming. We've been trying to do this for over a year.
Yes.
Like, it was multiple things got in the way, and we finally were like, let's do it.
Let's do it.
So.
We don't plan it, we won't do it. So thank you for tapping in with us.
Tapping in.
You see that? We will see you guys next time. Culture on Tap is sponsored by Houston Radio Platinum, playing the best classic hits. You can download the Houston Radio Platinum app. It's in your app store, or just ask Alexa to play Houston Radio Platinum.